Which country do you think is the richest in the world? Is it Japan, with giants like Toyota and Sony? Or Germany, the automotive powerhouse behind BMW and Mercedes? Maybe France, home to luxury brands like Louis Vuitton and Chanel? Or could it be the United States, the world's largest economy, the birthplace of Apple, Microsoft, Google, and Tesla? When we talk about wealth, we're not just looking at the size of an economy. We're talking about prosperity, measured by how much income the average person earns. And if we look at GDP per capita, the richest countries in the world aren't the biggest economies. Instead, they're small nations, tiny in both land and population, with few globally recognized corporations and often overlooked on the world stage. So why are these small countries wealthier than Japan, Germany, the UK, France, or even the US? Why is their GDP per capita 2 or even 3 times higher than that of major industrial powerhouses? Let's find out in this video. First, let's take a look at the top 10 countries with the highest GDP per capita in 2024. Notice anything unusual? Aside from the United States, none of the world's largest economies, no G7 countries, not even G20 powerhouses, appear on this list. Another interesting point, every single one of them, except the US, has a population of under 10 million. Some of them don't even reach 1 million, like Luxembourg or Iceland. But here's the surprising part. When compared to major industrial economies, like Germany, the UK, France, Italy, or Japan, their GDP per capita is often twice as high, sometimes even 3 times more. Why does this paradox exist? Let's break it down with some key examples. Japan, one of the strongest industrial economies in the world. It's home to global giants like Toyota, Sony, SoftBank, Honda, and Panasonic. Yet, its GDP per capita is only 1/4 that of Luxembourg, and 1/3 that of Ireland. South Korea, a high-tech powerhouse in Asia. Samsung, Hyundai, and LG are globally recognized brands. Yet, its GDP per capita is far behind Singapore. Germany, the economic engine of Europe. BMW, Mercedes, Siemens, Volkswagen, some of the biggest industrial names on the planet. But its GDP per capita is still significantly lower than its northern neighbors, like Denmark and Norway. So what's the reason? Why do these countries produce and export so much, yet their GDP per capita doesn't match that of smaller nations? Is it simply because a larger population means wealth is spread thinner? Or do these small countries have a unique advantage that gives them the upper hand? Let's find out in the next section. Unlike Japan, Germany, or South Korea, small countries don't rely on mass production. Instead of competing in volume, they focus on high-profit industries where the value added per worker is exceptionally high. One prime example is finance and banking, a sector dominated for decades by Luxembourg, Switzerland, and Singapore. Switzerland is home to global banking giants like UBS and Credit Suisse, while Luxembourg serves as the hub for thousands of investment funds and multinational financial corporations. And Singapore? It's where major Asian companies set up headquarters, attracting enormous capital flows from around the world. Another key advantage for small nations lies in high-tech industries and data. Ireland is a perfect case. It doesn't have heavy industry, but it hosts the European headquarters of Apple, Google, Meta, and Microsoft. By creating a business-friendly environment for tech giants, Ireland's GDP per capita has skyrocketed to one of the highest in the world. Beyond finance and tech, some small countries also capitalize on their natural resources in smart ways. Take Norway and Qatar, for example. Norway owns one of the world's largest sovereign wealth funds, worth a staggering $1.4 trillion, ensuring long-term prosperity even as oil revenues decline. Meanwhile, Qatar, despite its tiny size, is one of the world's largest exporters of natural gas, securing a massive income stream from energy. But specialization isn't the only reason small countries thrive. Another critical factor is their flexible tax policies. Look at the global economic map, and you'll notice that some of the wealthiest small nations have exceptionally low corporate tax rates, so low that they're often labeled as tax havens. Luxembourg, Ireland, Switzerland, and Singapore all fall into this category. For instance, Ireland's corporate tax rate is just 12.5%, significantly lower than Japan, 31%, the UK, 25%, or the US, 21%. This explains why so many tech giants choose to base their European operations in Ireland instead of larger industrial economies. Switzerland is another example. Its attractive tax policies have made it a global financial hub. Billionaires and multinational corporations park their wealth in Swiss banks, not only for financial security, but also for the country's lower tax rates compared to most major economies. But there's more. Smaller populations and efficient governance also contribute to their wealth. With fewer people to manage, governments in small nations can implement policies more effectively, respond to economic shifts faster, and build high-quality welfare systems. Norway, Switzerland, and Singapore all boast world-class education and healthcare systems. In fact, Singapore's labor productivity is even higher than the US, thanks to heavy investments in technology and high-skilled workers. Meanwhile, large industrial nations struggle with demographic and economic challenges. We will talk about this later in the video. If we look at economies like Japan, Germany, South Korea, and France, they all share one key characteristic. They rely heavily on manufacturing. These countries are among the world's top exporters. They produce cars, electronic components, and industrial machinery, essential products for the global economy. However, there's a catch. The profit margins in manufacturing are significantly lower than in finance and technology. Let's compare. A single iPhone produced in China costs around $500 to manufacture, but Apple sells it for over $1,000, pocketing most of the profits, about $300 per phone. Meanwhile, a Toyota or BMW car sells for around $40,000, but the actual profit margin is only about 5 to 10%, roughly $2,000 to $4,000 per vehicle. This shows that while producing a car costs tens or even hundreds of times more than making a phone, the profit is only a few times greater. As a result, to achieve the same profit levels as the finance or tech industries, manufacturing companies must spend more, hire more workers, and operate at larger scales. This in turn drags down GDP per capita. A Swiss banker can generate hundreds of thousands of dollars in profit per year, while an auto assembly worker contributes only a few $1,000s to GDP. Another major factor that keeps GDP per capita lower in industrialized nations is population size. Let's compare. Luxembourg, 673,000 people. Singapore, 5.8 million. Norway, 5.5 million. Now contrast that with Japan, 123 million. Germany, 84 million. France, 66 million. This vast difference has a major economic impact. Larger nations must allocate far more resources to social welfare, healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Significant drains on GDP. In France, public spending on social welfare accounts for 31% of GDP, the highest in the world. Additionally, large populations lower the average income level because the economy has to be distributed among more people. Japan's GDP in 2024 is over $4.3 trillion, but when divided by its 120 23 million people. GDP per capita is only around $33,000, just a quarter of Luxembourg's. Moreover, aging populations pose a serious challenge for industrialized nations. In Japan, 30% of the population is over 65, which increases welfare costs while shrinking the workforce. This is one of the key reasons why Japan's economy has stagnated for decades. To sustain their extensive welfare systems, larger nations often impose higher corporate taxes. For example, Japan, 31% corporate tax; France, 25%; Germany, 30%; US, 21%. In contrast, Ireland only charges 12.5%, while Luxembourg and Switzerland offer special tax incentives. The result? Many multinational corporations choose to base their headquarters in smaller countries rather than their home nations. Even companies from France, Germany, and Japan frequently shift profits to tax havens to optimize costs. Every economic model has its strengths and weaknesses. What truly matters is how each country leverages its advantages to grow and prosper. What do you think? Are small nations truly wealthier in a sustainable way? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to catch our upcoming videos.